She lifted her cup of coffee to her lips repeatedly that afternoon. The beautiful woman tried to fend off the drowsiness that had crept in and taken hold of her by relying on the strong caffeine to snap herself awake. Last night, Pure had spent hours on the balcony of her apartment, staring into the darkness of the night sky, lost in thought. She had sipped beer from a can, alone, until the early hours of the next day. That indulgence had left her sitting in her office now, stifling yawns and feeling the weight of her sleepless night. Her narrow back leaned against the large chair. Pure closed her eyes for a brief moment before they fluttered open again. Her gaze fell on the familiar symbol on her favorite ceramic mug. It was placed not far from her laptop, doing its duty of holding a hot drink. A faint smile bloomed on her lips, as it always did when she saw it. LP was the initials Loft had carefully etched onto the mug during her first pottery lesson. Pure hadn't known then that the act of inscribing those letters would also carve something permanent into her heart. Take it as something to remember me by. In case one day you miss me too much, you can look at the mug I made. The mug wasn't as perfectly crafted as the ones an expert like Pure could make, but it was still impressive, evidence of Loft's skill and effort. One for each of us? Yes, in case one day we can put them side by side. For a moment, neither of them had known if that day would ever come. Even now, it still hadn't arrived. Their last conversation had taken place 2 years ago, and since then, there had been no contact, no accidental encounters. Everything had been severed as if they had never known each other, just as they had agreed. The only thing that remained was the lingering feeling that connected them, a reminder that what she and the tall girl, who shone bright like the sun, had shared was real and not just a dream. With some people, even the smallest things can trigger a flood of memories. For Pure, the sight of the mug that she received as a gift was enough to make her think of that certain someone. Her last experience of love had been buried deep within her heart. Though 2 years had passed, it hadn't faded. Every moment, every wound, remained as vivid as ever. Only the guilt that had once consumed her had lessened over time. It hadn't disappeared entirely, but it no longer tormented her as it once had. 2 years might not seem long to some, but for Pure, it had been enough to heal her heart to a certain extent. Whether through her own efforts or with support, she had made progress. And she could only hope that the woman she missed so dearly had undergone a similar transformation. She hoped that Loft had regained her brightness, that she wasn't the same Loft who had cried so often the last time they met. Because Pure had no way of knowing, no news or updates, all she could do was hope without a hint of whether she would succeed or not. With her former lover. "I'm sorry for keeping you working so late, Miss Key." She glanced up to see her assistant massaging her temples. Every time she saw Key do that, Loft felt a pang of guilt. The work-related issues that had arisen had forced both of them to stay late until nearly midnight. The ever-considerate boss felt bad despite compensating Key fairly for her overtime. Yet Loft, who was one of the management, was still concerned. "It's okay. I'm earning a lot." Her laptop was packed as the assistant responded to Loft's concern. The person in front of her possessed qualities that any employee would love to work with. Her boss, though younger by a few years, held a high-ranking position. She was kind-hearted, the type that Key wasn't sure she would find another in the next few centuries. The pay was generous, but it was Loft's kindness that kept Key loyal after 2 years of working together. These were the best times in Key's work life, the best employee she could ask for. Even so, it doesn't happen often. If it did, I'd have quit already. Key teased, prompting Loft to laugh. The thought of Key leaving was daunting, and the boss had already promised herself she would do everything possible to keep Key by her side, not trying to run away from her. "I wouldn't make you work late all the time. This time, it just couldn't be helped." "I understand. Really, I do. Thank you for understanding. We should head home and get some rest. By the roads near your house should be clear." "It shouldn't take long to get there," said, packing up her belongings. And because she was busy packing, she didn't notice the curious look Key gave her as she spoke. "Are you driving me home, Miss Loft?" No, I was just saying the traffic should be fine by now. Loft halted movements, looking up and denying with a serious expression. Oh, so I don't have to refuse, then? She wasn't expecting her boss to offer her off duty, so the other woman initiated it. She was ready to deny it in an instant. When the tall woman denied with such a serious expression, the assistant was unsure how to respond to her boss's teasing. You're going to refuse?